Hello everyone, it's Devin. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to an album review of the new Kanye West album, Jesus is King. Kanye West, one of the biggest, most influential, and innovative artists of the 21st century. New album. As with every Kanye album cycle, there are a ton of delays, changes, and moments of controversy that I have to kind of talk about before I can even think about, getting to the music. So let's dig into that. The latest installment of the Kanye circus began in late 2018 when Kanye announced that his next studio album, to be called Yandhi, was going to be released in September of that year. Over the course of the next year, we had a lot of delays, leaks, and endlessly increasing levels of hype. When a pretty substantial demo of Yandhi leaked earlier this year, it seemed like Kanye pretty much scrapped the whole project and began working on a new studio album, Jesus is King, as well as the IMAX experience that was made to accompany it. What? As the excitement for this album began to build, we learned some pretty interesting details about the making of it via social media. We had Kanye announcing that he was done making secular music and that rap belonged to the devil, and that he was only going to make gospel from now on. Also, there was that thing where Kanye didn't want his collaborators on this album to be having premarital sex during the making of the album. What? All these weird claims and announcements are pretty much par for the course for Kanye at this point. I'm sure we all remember 2018's MAGA fiasco. The spectacle of this album understandably made some fans very skeptical about whether or not Kanye would be able to really pull through on his first gospel album, and an album that is so apparently strictly religiously themed. I personally was pretty worried about what the general quality of this record would be, as nowadays Kanye seems to be more volatile than ever in this later stage of his career. Yes, I do believe that last year Kanye did release some of the best music he's ever made. Kids See Ghost is still my favorite album of 2018 easily, and Ye has grown on me quite a bit too. But with every new Kanye project, there's always this sinking feeling in the back of my mind that it could be a dud. I feel like at any moment he's bound to slip up. Fans were also skeptical about what the subject matter of this album would be. I mean, Kanye's faith has always played a very large role in his music throughout his career, but never to the extent of a straight-up, just full-on praise Jesus, hallelujah, full-length album. To everyone's surprise, the album actually did drop on October 25th, and going into it, I tried to keep an open mind. After all, several of Kanye's best songs ever are steeped in these themes of religion and faith and keeping a connection to God, and I was also keeping in mind that viral clip from Kanye's Sunday service earlier this year where he's in his power stance and he's just in the zone. I was very hopeful that on Jesus is King we would maybe get some of those godly fusions of hip-hop and gospel that we were kind of getting a very small taste of in that clip. And now that the album is out and I've been listening to it, did we get that? Well, I will say the album does kick off in spectacular fashion with the song Selah. After a brief intro track performed by the Sunday Service Choir, Kanye sort of sets the mission statement for this record in the most epic way imaginable. Over the course of Selah's sub-3-minute runtime, Kanye hits listeners with rich church organs, pounding percussion, gospel choir hallelujahs, and a Christian call to arms in the lyrics declaring God the King and the humans his soldiers. The incredibly loud gunshot snare drums throughout the song remind me a lot of the opener to last year's Kids See Ghost project, Feel the Love, but with a heavenly choral edge. I really dig it. This song is cinematic in scope and massive in sound. It's really one of the most epic openers to a Kanye album so far, and that's saying a lot, because this is the dude that made the song Dark Fantasy. That's such a good song. The next song, titled Follow God, is also pretty decent. It's probably the most conventionally Kanye song here. The whole thing is built off of a great sample of the 1974 soul song Can You Lose by Following God. What ends up making the song, though, is actually Ye's rapping. Kanye rarely busts out any really impressive flows these days, but on Follow God, his flow is pretty standout, with him rhyming nearly every line here with lifelike, Christ-like, etc. While I do enjoy this track, I certainly have some gripes with it. It does sound really good, but it's really kind of a non-song, as there's no progression or change throughout the entire thing. It doesn't really go anywhere at all, and it is painfully short at comfortably below 2 minutes. I think it's like 1:40 or something like that. And now that I've talked about the two songs that I do like, this is unfortunately the part of the video where I say that these are the only two songs on Jesus is King that I like. In fact, I'd say everything else on this album ranges from either mediocre to borderline unlistenable. For better or for worse, I consider myself to be a pretty big Kanye West fan. I have enjoyed really every solo album that he's put out up until this point. I can recommend all of them in some form or another. I love how bold he is. I love how he never does the same thing twice. But with Jesus is King, this album is bad. Like, this is way below Kanye's standards in just about every way. One of the most instantly noticeable flaws with Jesus is King is that it feels so incredibly rushed. Aside from Selah, the songs here lack any polish. Most of them just aren't produced very well, especially for an artist as high profile as Kanye West. And the writing is so spotty. On tracks like Follow God and Everything We Need, it feels like entire chunks of these songs are just missing, like he just forgot to put them there. Throughout this past decade, Kanye West's studio albums have become increasingly messy and spontaneous in aesthetic and execution. Like, the difference between what is possibly his most polished, most well-groomed body of work, 2010's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, and his most out there, wild, and experimental 2016's The Life of Pablo is night and day. It hardly even sounds like the same artist in some regards. His last solo effort, 2018's Ye, was a brief, feverish collection of songs that sounded like it had been written and assembled in a matter of weeks. However, at least in the case of Ye, I think this ended up working mostly in the album's favor. The roughness of it all and the lo-fi edge were really complementary to the album's dark vibe, introspective tone, and themes of mental health. Whether this was intentional or not, it really added a nice sense of cohesion to Ye, a quality that I've only grown to appreciate more and more since the album's release. So in his past couple of releases, Kanye utilizing this really spontaneous approach to creating his songs has led to some really great music, but the thing about spontaneity is it is so unpredictable, and like I was saying before, at any moment Kanye could just slip up. And here, I think Kanye has finally slipped up, as Jesus is King sounds rushed and unfinished in the worst way possible. On this album, Kanye is shooting for a grandiose, godly proclamation of his unyielding faith, which is just completely incongruent with what we get in the production. There is no reason this album should sound even less groomed than the already distinctly unpolished Ye. While the best songs on that album felt like really intensely emotional snapshots of Kanye's mental state, the songs on Jesus is King just kind of mill about with little direction or forethought. The track Closed on Sunday is easily one of the worst Kanye West songs ever, with some really weak, just powerless singing from Ye and auto-tuned pleas to God that are balanced out with Chick-fil-A references. We then get a whole series of pretty mediocre songs. On God features a super euphoric beat from Pierre Bourne that I would much rather be hearing, like, I don't know, Playboy Cardi over than Kanye. And the mixing on this song sucks. I mean, it's pretty bad throughout the whole album, but here it's just wow. The song Everything We Need does have some pretty nice layered vocal harmonies from frequent Yeezy collaborator Ty Dolla $ign, but it also has really just quiet, awkward auto-tune singing from Kanye that reminds me a lot of Lil Dicky. So that's never a good thing, and also this song is critically underwritten. It ends more abruptly than any other track on the record. Then we have the song Water, which sounds like Kanye taking a stab at a really forgettable, corny Bible camp song. What is this? We do get a brief moment of respite with the song God Is, which is probably the most gorgeously arranged song here, with its super spaced out, jazzy drum hits, lush pianos, beautiful gospel harmonies. The opening moments of this song are actually pretty heavenly, and upon my first few listens, this was easily one of my favorites on the record, but wow, as I just kept coming back to it, Kanye's singing on this song really started to grate on me. Like, I get that it's supposed to be a little bit raw, but someone get this dude a cough drop and make him do another vocal take.
There is freedom from addiction. Jesus, you have my soul. Sunday
For an album that is so supposedly selfless and pure, the track Hands On is awfully self-pitying and just like, yeah. On this song, we pretty much get Kanye complaining for over 3 minutes over a non-existent instrumental about all the people that have been criticizing him for the admittedly sudden decision to make a full departure into gospel music. Listen, I get that people can change and learn lessons, but just 6 years ago, this guy made a song called I Am a God. Just this year, he made the outrageous claim that he is unquestionably the greatest human artist of all time. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what the implications of that statement is. I definitely buy that Kanye is super into his faith, because he always has been, but don't act surprised when people are a little bit, on the fence about all this. Then we have the song Use This Gospel, which I've seen a lot of people call one of the diamonds in the rough of this record, and I get why, but for me this is easily one of the most frustrating songs here. Not because it's as aggressively bad as something like Closed on Sunday, but because there are just so many little moments on this song, like 2-second moments, where I just hear it all coming together, and I could hear how this song is working, but overall, it's a total mess. At the core of this song, we do have one of the sweetest and catchiest melodies on Jesus is King, and Ye's singing throughout this track is actually pretty stable, pretty on pitch, but this song just so quickly tries to do way too many things. First off, we have these really warbly, kind of gross-sounding vocal harmonies that carry throughout much of the song. There's this weird, incessant chime that continues throughout nearly the entire song that sounds a lot like, I don't know, the beep when you open your car door. Then we have these verses from Pusha T and Malice of Clips, and I mean, Pusha T is one of my favorite rappers of all time. I have never heard him sound this offbeat and out of his element. There are numerous points in his verse where there are just ridiculous, awkward silences between his lines. It was like hard to listen to. And what did he record his verse on? Even on first listen, I was like, why can I hear him like moving around in the studio, moving back away from the mic? Do another take. But then we do have another moment where I hear things coming together during Malice's verse, like when he said, "From the concrete grew a rose." I was like, yes. It sounded like everything this song was building to was coming together, and then out of nowhere, we just get a Kenny G saxophone solo? What? I mean, it sounds pretty nice, but it comes out of nowhere and is just stapled to the end of this song. This track, along with the extremely brief outro, Jesus is Lord, serve as a pretty fittingly messy ending to this pretty messy album for Kanye. And listen, I don't think Jesus is King failed because it's a Christian album. I do think that Christian music can be done just as well as any other kind of music. Look at an album like Big Crit's Forever is a Mighty Long Time, my favorite album of 2017. It is a record that balances several thematic threads, including faith. Songs like Keep the Devil Off show that you can make a really great Christian rap gospel fusion without sacrificing things like good lyrics, good writing. Or for a more relevant example, look to two of the absolute best songs of Kanye's entire career, Jesus Walks and Ultralight Beam. The former is a supremely sharp pop rap song with really complex lyrics about religion's place in modern music and God's very important role in Kanye's life. It's a song that manages to be immensely proud of its religion, but is also able to balance that out by implementing a nice personal angle too. And the latter is 5 minutes of absolutely beautiful, almost mournful praise Jesus hallelujah stuff that is delivered in such an earnest and universal manner that it'll have atheists testifying along in the pews. Across all of Jesus is King, we never get anything as thematically dense as Jesus Walks or as just beautiful and well assembled as Ultralight Beam. I could see some people making the argument that the inane simplicity of a lot of these lyrics is supposed to in some way mimic a lot of the lyrical stylings you see in actual gospel music, but the thing is, this isn't really a gospel album. This is a half-assed Christian rap album with a thin coat of gospel paint. And even if you want to defend the merits of the lyrics of this album, I don't see how anyone can justify a song like Closed on Sunday. Like, look at this. Are you serious? Even though we've been waiting for this album for a year at this point, it feels so rushed and strangely last minute. Like, I honestly believe that with this album, Kanye was like hardcore procrastinating, and then a few weeks before its release, he just crammed like a high school student before finals. I'd be genuinely shocked if you told me that most of the performances that actually made it onto this album were not like the first takes that they recorded. Yeah, so ultimately this album wasn't only a letdown by Kanye standards, but a genuinely bad album, which in my opinion is a first for Kanye. It's one of the biggest disappointments of 2019, second only to that new Chance the Rapper. I got muscles like Superman Sorry, I don't know exactly what happened there. Yeah, this album's just underproduced, underwritten. In many spots it feels kind of unwritten. It does have some great moments. Selah's great, but yeah, overall I'm probably feeling like a 3.5 out of 10, like a light 3.5. It could be maybe just a straight 3, but for now I'm gonna go with a 3.5. And so yeah, I think that's gonna do it for all my thoughts on this new Kanye West album, Jesus is King. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you are new. Thank you so much for all of your support. And I hope to see you all in the next video. Goodbye.